I get asked all the time if I'm a Critical Role fan, and I'll just tell you the answer. Yes, I am. And no. The longer answer is, yeah, I absolutely enjoyed the probably 30 episodes or so of Critical Role that I did watch, but after 120 plus hours, I just couldn't continue. However, I'm glad I spent so much time listening to someone else run the game. I'm glad I gave it more than just a fleeting or cursory look over for one night just to be able to tell people, yeah, I tried it. I didn't like it. I totally understand why people love the show so much. But for me, I watched with a critical eye, pun fully intended, but not a critical eye for the show or how they performed, but rather how I handled players, how I approached pacing. What do I think I do better than Matt? What does Matt do that I don't like? What does Matt do better than I do? What can his style impart onto me and my approach to the game? Everything for me was a comparison for the purpose of improvement, not judgment from a pedestal. But there was one little thing that Matt did that I originally thought was terrible, but ultimately I gave it a shot just to see how much it affected my game, fully expecting it to break it. But much to my surprise, it turned out fantastic, and I have since molded it and made it my own, and I've been using this for a few years now, and I love it. And I'm here to convince you guys who might think it's dumb or silly to give it a try in your next game. But before I talk about that, I want to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, Easy Roller Dice. I'll put it to you simply. Easy Roller Dice has teamed up with me to give you 20% off of your entire order with coupon code TAKING20. Get it? It's because you're taking 20% off. Like you're taking 20% off of your order with taking 20. So you could be taking 20% off of metal dice, or 20% off of your precious stone dice, or 20% off of dice trays, or you could even be taking 20% off of a new dice jail, flask, or dice bag. And all you have to do is go to easyrollerdice.com and use coupon code TAKING20 at checkout to get 20% off of your entire order. I love these ads. I'm not even kind of sorry. It's still such a great deal for a premium product. So thank you, Easy Roller Dice, for being a part of the Taking 20 team. Okay, so this is maybe a little bit of an odd one today, but I'm going to cut right down to it. What I'm talking about is a little scene that I saw in the first series with Gilroy or Gilmore or something like that. And now I'm going to get like 500 comments with the store's exact name. But nevertheless, for those of you who are not familiar with this character, he runs a magic shop. Now, I know the majority of you dungeon masters out there probably just tensed up at those two words, magic shop. But trust me, baby birds, unclench those steel butt cheeks and drop that diamond you just created to the floor, because I felt the same way you did at one point. And let me just say, I was wrong. It's been no secret here on the channel that I might have started in 2nd edition, but 3rd edition, 3.5, and Pathfinder are all what I consider home base. Those are the systems I grew up playing the most, and they will always be my baseline for what Dungeons and Dragons is. However, it's also no surprise that those games, more than any other editions or iterations, can feel very bloated and gamey, particularly with magic items. For anyone old enough to remember Diablo 2, or really anyone that's ever played a single MMO for that matter, these systems felt very grindy, and as your character leveled often, though not always, they became as much about what your character was wearing and what little slot and what the best in slot is as to how they were built or what the story was. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? A lot of people think there is, there's not. But moving away from that is a big factor in my and many others' opinions as to why Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition has been so successful. 5e brought with it the 3 attunement slots, eliminated double-digit modifiers that went well into the 20s, and overall reduced the need for, and dare I say, even the impact of magic items. Taking all of that into context, when I saw Matt and his crew have this scene of Guild Whoever, where he pretty much all but let them walk into a shop with a bunch of gold and ask about dozens of magic trinkets and more, my immediate reaction was, no, I don't know about that. That's just a holdover from Pathfinder and 3.5, which, by the way, makes sense as Critical Role started as a home Pathfinder game, right? So it all makes sense. And that, I thought that it was all going to wreck their 5th edition game. But there's something about that scene, if you go back and watch it, that's undeniable. It's fun. It's fun for the players. It's fun for Matt. Everyone is smiling and grinning and swapping around gold and working together as a party to make decisions on what they should prioritize and for whom. As an audience watching the game, admittedly, okay, it's not the most exciting thing. Okay, they're shopping. We get it. But the reason they spend so much time of that episode shopping is, well, because everyone at the table is enjoying themselves. Even Matt, who is coming up with items, acting out the eccentric shopkeeper and spouting off numbers, is enjoying himself. Which brings me back to my game. I watched this. I took note of how excited all the players were. And I thought, okay, I tell you what. I'm going to throw a magic shop, ignoring all the warnings in my gut and implied game design from the 5th edition team, at my players and just see if it wrecks my game like I think it's probably going to. Now, I knew, in my world at least, that I wanted a few things with any magic shop I added to it. One, it had to have everything. To me at least, the point was to let players do cool shit, to let them buy the flaming sword or dragon slaying arrows or flying brooms or boots that let them walk on water. Anything less than a shop that had everything, that defeated the point. Besides, if I was going to spend time to come up with only a few specific items to make available to them at the shop, I might as well just do that anyways and let my players find those things out in the middle of all of their adventures. Literally the point was to let them come up with stuff in the book that they wanted to try out. 2, it was all about location, location, location. I wanted my players to have access to high-end shopping in more than one single place on an entire continent. But I also didn't want them to have access to any magic item ever, of all time ever, in every little town they came across. That would take some of the magic out of the magic items. And I wanted good reasons still for them to continue visiting big cities like Waterdeep and Kalimport. And 3, it had to be nearly impossible to rob. Firstly, because of immersion reasons, right? I didn't want any and every bad guy to just be able to rob the place and become a Super Saiyan. And secondly, because let's face it, players are greedy dicks sometimes. So I clearly wanted to discourage them and make it very obvious that trying to rob this place was a bad idea. So those were my 3 requirements to adding any magic shops to my world. It or they had to have everything, it or they had to be in more than just one singular place, and it or they had to be able to protect their inventory. And so, the Magic Mistler was born. Many might brag about the beautiful views, bustling suburbs, or grand churches their city has to offer as a demonstration of its greatness. But the mark of a truly magnificent city comes from whether or not it has a Magic Mistler. The inside of these small, seemingly empty, tidy little shops plays in quite the contrast to the bold marquee made up of bright golden letters set against their blue painted exteriors. 2 enormous square windows on either side of the door allow those peeking in a view of the shop in its entirety. Something that those familiar with the inner workings of a Magic Mistler know is done purposefully to discourage the more common of street thugs and ne'er-do-wells. Because aside from the purple velvet curtain separating the retail front from the back of the shop, by all means, the shop seems rather empty and unimpressive. A singular oak desk sits towards the back of the room, sized appropriately for the accompanying gnome shopkeep, and several rows of shelves wrap all the way around its walls. The shelves each filled with what appears to be little bits of parchment folded like small tents. Upon closer examination, however, each of these propped up bits of paper are adorned with 2 things: a price written in the local currency and a finely drawn image of something spectacular. Each of these quaint little shops is run by a different member of the Dragles, a powerful merchant family of wizards, generally good-natured and quick-witted, for those that deal with them, from the so-called grand adventurer passing through to the local clergy members who both buy and sell their magical healing elixirs. They usually find the Dragles professional, knowledgeable, and most importantly, their price is fair, something Rendragle, the proprietor and eldest sibling of the Dragle family, takes particular pride in. But the secret as to why each of the Magic Mistlers are able to operate in so many locations without the fear of logistical issues and keep such a healthy stock of items for its clientele has to do with its remarkably intuitive centralization. Once gold has been exchanged, the Draggle Wizard pops back behind the curtain with a small flash of light as the only hint of their disappearance before a second flash and pop as they return from their heavily warded vault with the purchased item in hand. So I think you guys get the point of how these things operate in my world. Basically, I created a small chain of stores that all operate from a single vault of items. I thought that having a ton of magic shops with flaming swords and powerful rings was maybe a bit too much magic, but it did seem at least a little more feasible to me that at least one flaming sword would exist for sale in my world, and if anyone had access to it, it would be this wizard merchant family. So if you went to Waterdeep looking for said flaming sword and then went to Baldur's Gate looking for a flaming sword, you would basically be buying from the exact same stock. Also, I want to protect the items in my world, so I created a mysterious entrance and exit to the vault that only the Draggles knew how to operate. I absolutely, without a doubt, stole this from Harry Potter and Gringotts. If Rowling can have a secure bank in her world filled with witches and wizards, then I think my version of the Forgotten Realms or even Golarion can too. Now, I'm not here to sell you all my exact version of magic shops. What I do want to say though, is that they've been a wonderful addition to my game. My players absolutely love them. And it's just fun, guys. It's just fun for the players to have something they can go and spend gold on. It's fun for them to play with cool new stuff. They love getting bows that shoot frost arrows and necklaces that let them phase through walls and call down lightning. It's just fun for them. And I know 3.5 and Pathfinder got so bloated with magic items and that the game design seemed like magic items weren't just a nice to have, but rather a must have. And that part of the charm of 5e is because you don't have to have all those items like you used to. But I can honestly say adding in some of the fun for the players hasn't broken anything in my games. In fact, I would even go so far as to say that with 5e's attunement mechanic, it's made it much easier to manage. They can only attune to 3 things at a time. Additionally, one of my biggest criticisms, and one that I absolutely have heard fellow Dungeon Masters echo, is about how 5th edition doesn't give prices for all the items in the Dungeon Master's Guide. But honestly guys, once I went through my first shopping experience at the Magic Mistler with players asking, well, how much for this? Oh, what about this? How much for that? What about this? And I went through all this and I had to sort of come up with those prices according to their rarity on the very simplified chart in the DMG. It was actually pretty easy. It was very, very easy. I mean, if something seemed super powerful, I priced it near the max for its category. If something seemed like it was more of a simple utility item, I priced it a little lower. This also has the added effect of pushing players slightly more towards creative items than just +1 shields, which in turn lends to them thinking more creatively in gameplay. And I can attest, it's been a couple years now with this, and I have never had a game just absolutely broken because I've given my players the opportunity to pick out all of their magic items in a magic shop. All in all, here's what I will say. I was skeptical. I was very skeptical about adding in a total magic shop to my game. I thought it was going to break the game. I thought players were going to start coming up with builds that abused magic items if they thought that they could just get anything eventually. I thought it was going to ruin the experience of finding magical loot while questing. I thought it was going to be a total disaster. But I was wrong. It has overall been a wonderful addition that feels like a nice reward for players and actually reduced the amount of prep work I have to put into creating loot packets for players to find. And it's added a lot more creative play. It's just the rule of cool, and I highly recommend you give it a try in your next game. Let go of the worry and control, and I bet your table will have a lot of fun with it too. And by the way, thank you, Matt, for having this shop in your game and your game being so popular, because this has been a wonderful addition and I'm very glad that I stole it from you. So now I want to pass it over to you guys. What do you guys think? Do you use magic shops in your world? And if you do, I want to know this because I'm betting it's a very, very low number of people that not only just have like outright magic shops, but do you guys allow your magic shops to have any and everything? Have you guys tried this before and had something break your game? Give me the horror stories. Give me the success stories. Let us know in the comments down below. I really want to hear from you guys. I, of course, want to give a massive thank you to all of the incredible patrons over at welcomeadventures.com. Guys, thank you so much for all of your support. Because of your support, I can keep doing this, and for that, I'm incredibly grateful. So if you guys like what I do here, if you want to support more content like this, welcomeadventures.com is a great way to support the channel and snag some rewards for yourself. Lately, David is just crushing it on all of our maps, and we have successfully moved up to 2 maps a month, so a lot of bang for your buck over there at welcomeadventures.com. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I would love to have you subscribe. I put out videos on GM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more stuff just like this. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, just hit that subscribe button down below and come join us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah.